how do you
Yeah.
train a little child to begin to love God so that they can grow in favor with Him? And when they are in favor with God, then even gaining favor with men will be easier because you have learned to love God.
Welcome to the Crucible Project Podcast. The Crucible Project is a nonprofit organization committed to creating a world of men and women who live with integrity, grace, and courage, helping them to fulfill their God-given purpose. This podcast will discuss important and sometimes difficult topics while delivering practical life applications with men and women who are currently practicing this work. We are igniting Christ-like change in men and women through experiences of radical honesty and grace.
Hello and welcome to the Crucible Podcast. This is Jay Mountjoy. I am here with Ananda from Kenya, and you are looking like it's morning time over by you. Is that right?
Yes, it's a bright morning. Well, the sun is not completely out, so as you
Wow.
can see, some shades of darkness on my side.
It is so good to see you, Ananda. I wonder if you would be willing, and this is partly selfish from my perspective, but we both flew out of the country to go serve Crucible Weekend in
Yes.
Rwanda, and I was wondering if you would, from your side and your perspective, and the men that you were with, just tell me what that experience was like for you. Have you ever done anything like that before?
It was my first time to go and staff outside of um, outside of Kenya,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't my first time to have a mission trip, in a sense, to a foreign country. So I am. I've been I've been on quite a number of missions, but for Crucible Project, that was the first one that I was going to staff outside of Kenya.
And it was the first weekend, live weekend that they had in Rwanda. So that was
Yes,
uh,
yes,
its own excitement and challenges and rewards. Um,
yes.
yeah, so you traveled with a group of men, which I love that idea of.
hmm
Getting the community together and going out to serve. What was that like for you guys?
It was awesome because it was actually the first time we were doing that as a group. We've come a long way since 2017. That's
Mhm.
when the first weekend happened here in
Wow,
Kenya, in
wow! I
Nairobi.
just want to take a second. It's like, that is so fast. 2017, and then
Yes,
2022, you're out. Wow, yeah.
yeah. So I really love the men that I work with. Very exciting, very interesting people to interact with. And for some of them, it was their first mission trip ever, and
Mm,
so it was an exciting moment to just see the men that I've been working with because I was I've probably been the longest serving in the ministry since it started in 2017,
mm,
and having trained and coached these men and just seeing them stand out and do what they were doing without much help from me, and
mm,
yeah, and some of them have even become better than me, and so it's so exciting.
mm.
In fact, that mission trip gave me the confidence to actually take the sabbatical from the team,
Wow.
knowing that they will move ahead with the work without me,
Mm,
and they're okay.
mm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So that sounds. The words coming to mind is just fruitful. Just so many things, positive things happened over there. And I might be a little sidetrack. I've just noticed in my own life showing up and the serving men. the Crucible Project, but any other place, it does seem to change or shift or open up or maybe it just makes things. Maybe I just think things are more possible after doing a
Mm.
weekend. Yeah,
Yes.
maybe I'm just more in tune with what God's doing and how it's all moving. But yeah, after those weekends, I things seem to shift and move in my life. It's been a real blessing.
Mm.
And that trip in particular was for me a part of a dream of trying to live a life where I could integrate traveling and
Mm.
seeing the world and learning new things and showing up and being blessed as I show up to be a blessing for others. So it was a huge deal and blessing for me, and I probably didn't realize how big it was at the time when I was there. But when I got home, I just felt this
Mm.
like big, it was just a big release. Just so much had happened. I came back and was just physically drained and emotionally drained and
Mm.
spiritually drained.
Mm.
Yeah, how did you find it being over there doing a weekend out of the country? Like the actual work of the weekend.
As usual, every mission trip has the drain that it comes with, and
Mm,
so I definitely felt that it was a lot of work, and especially Crucible, and so
mm,
the activities that go on,
yeah, yeah.
and so it quite intense, but also happy because I wasn't taking lead roles, and so um, it compared to the previous weekends we've had here in
Mm,
Kenya where I was leading.
mm,
uh, it was much easier for
mm,
me. It was
mm,
much lighter for me, um, because that was just my experience.
yeah, yeah.
It was much lighter for me than the previous weekends that I have
Mm-hmm.
had to really engage. Yeah, so this one, I was confident there were some Americans who were leading, and so I didn't have to work too hard
Yeah,
in order to
yeah.
make things to happen. Yeah, so it was easy for me. Let me put it that way. There's still some drain that happens, but and then also on my team, the team that came from Nairobi, I was also not the lead person. Someone else was leading. So
Mm-hmm.
I was basically riding and being and playing a background role. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or yeah, sounds like you were maybe practicing for the sabbatical, doing
Yes, yes, yes.
doing a ride. So without the as many responsibilities, did you notice? Did you get something out of the weekend from staffing
Yes,
differently
yes.
for yourself? I'm interested in that contrast for you.
It's interesting when you're not on the stage. It's like theater, when you sit on the front row and you're watching and observing, uh, get to see the different perspectives of things. And so
Mm-hmm.
I I was able to get the perspective from standing from a distance and not being in the mix of things. And so just realizing the different personalities in the activities that are happening. So and just realizing how different we all are, and how we also complement one another, and when
Mm-hmm.
somebody is stuck, somebody else can come in. Yeah, and not being worried that things will fall apart. And so when you're in the stage, there's a worry that things might
Oh
fall
yeah.
apart,
Oh
but
yeah.
but but when you're watching, I mean, it's not in your hands. You're basically just observing. So that was me. I was and appreciating just everyone that brings in their game, and doing it to the best of their abilities. Yeah. So
Mm.
that was the richness of what I was experiencing. And then also, learning a little more deeper on the processes, um, and seeing um, how things can go when, especially because Crucible is highly coaching, and coaching, you don't determine how somebody, the direction that somebody goes,
Mm,
but you allow them to take the direction that will be appropriate for them. And so just seeing that, and allowing people to get into the best of what they are made of, sort
mm,
of drawing out their
yeah.
potential, and allowing that to flourish in the space that they have been given. Yeah, so
Mm,
that would
yeah.
be my perspective.
Yeah, no, I that resonates with me. That I feel I can probably learn or take in information better when I'm not in it. Right, I'm not up and doing the thing or leading the thing or in front of everybody. And so I can take in the information in my head. But there is something about being up front and doing. There's a different kind of learning where it registers or lands or grows me in a different way. Um, yeah, so I'm glad you got that experience finally, to not have to be on the dance floor, but get to be up in the balcony a little bit and see everything that's going on. Um,
Mm,
yeah, I was also curious. As you talk about different personalities and being able to see how people could step in and complement each other and support each other. What did you see culturally that was different in the Rwanda community versus the Kenya community, both for the staff and for the men who were participating? Did anything leap out to you there?
we're definitely different.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, as Kenyans and Rwandans, maybe for you Americans, you look at us and you see us are the same, but we
Yeah, I know. I'm just bobbing on the surface. I'm just like, I know there's a lot more going on here, and I would love to hear your experience. Yeah.
yes, yes. So I know the Kenyans are more outgoing,
Mm,
more daring in taking on risks, and that's what was coming out in that perspective.
yep. Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but
As you
the
say that, I noticed that for sure. Yeah.
Yes, but the Rwandans are more laid back, and partly because of language barrier as well. So
Mm,
the English is not their sort of daily language of communication, and they have just adopted English in the last few years, and so they're still adjusting back to speaking English. But in
yeah.
Kenya, English has become like our first language.
Mm,
I can actually express myself in English better than I do in my own mother tongue,
uh,
and even better than in the national language Swahili. And so um, the aspect of language is very key in expression, and so it gives you confidence. And so for us as Kenyans, we then come out more confidently because we are used to the language, but also just the exposure in terms of risk taking and stepping out. And I think the crucible culture has also assisted a lot in terms of um, people stepping up,
mm,
because there's usually
mm,
a tendency for the African man to wait until somebody else steps in.
mm,
But the way the crucible culture has taught us is that it depends on you. Take responsibility, take initiative, and step up. And so you
yeah.
don't have to wait for somebody else to do it. If you can do it, take it on. Yeah. So
Mm,
that was a huge difference. That the men are willing to step up, do something, even when they are not very sure about what they are
yeah.
doing, but
Yeah.
they step in it. Yeah. So I think those are
Right.
the main differences.
And as you say that, I can look back and I can really see that. I appreciate that. Getting every time I've been up there leading, and still doing this. I started in 2016 was my first weekend. Um, I can't even imagine not having a sense of overwhelm, or a sense of fear, but
Mm,
also that culture of support. Yeah, you
yeah.
can take it on, own it,
Mm,
step into it has been extremely helpful for me growing. And I was with one of the other American leaders a Saturday night, and everything's going on, and we are first time both of us have been to Rwanda, and so we're totally kind of, I feel like fish out of water, kind of um,
mm,
taking in a
mm,
new experience. And he said, in a lot of ways, this is the weekend is built in a way where this could be any weekend, you know, anywhere. So
mm,
in some ways, it was, comforting and familiar, and then of course it was very, very foreign for us also.
mm.
So we wanted to take a moment and thank you for, um, and I wish I had a lot more of the Kenyan men here. I hope I get to talk to some more of them, for the openness and the welcome that I felt when I showed up there, and was the first time that I had met um, any of you, and I just really felt. Well, I just felt accepted, just like an instantly, just almost an assumed type thing.
Mm,
And instead of having the normal kind of, noticing my normal defenses, and being with them, and say thank you defenses, but I don't have to project myself here or seem smarter or funnier or wittier than I am.
mm.
And just big smiles and open hearts, open arms. I appreciated that so much. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
Um, the other thing, that went along with that, the so we met in evening, first morning that we were at the school where we were doing the weekend, and this has stayed with me. Um, I was scrambling around. I had responsibilities to do, and was moving through things, and just kind of in my normal mode of being. And I I think I just walked past you, and I'm just processing, just stuck in my head. And you were like, "Hey, what? Come back here, hey!" And I stopped and I turned around. You just had your arms open. I just walked back to you and gave you a big hug. And what I didn't understand was, this was what I perceived from the outside. Every morning, all the Kenyan men, it was like you guys hadn't seen each other in like months. You were so excited to just connect again. Just, hey, good morning. How have you been? How did you sleep? It was this ritual that I had never experienced anything like that.
Mm.
And so, I was just carrying that, like, oh, yeah, what if I did connect with the people around me like that? Just every time I saw them, I was so excited and so open. Um, and I don't know if that stuck out to you at all, but it seems so natural and so foreign.
For us, that's so normal. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's so normal when you wake up, you greet each other and wish each other the best, and yeah. So yeah, and
Was I the only American, or were there others that also missed the cues on connecting first thing in the morning? Do you even remember? Did it stand out to you?
well, I didn't take note of that.
Okay.
I apparently didn't even notice that difference. So
Well, that's a big shame lifter for me. So thank you. I wanted to get that off my chest, and tell you what a blessing that was, and that I really saw that as a striking difference
mm,
from the way that I was living, and I loved how that felt and how that looked, and it
mm,
changed the way I want to live. Um,
mm,
going through the day. So, almost afraid to ask on that front, but in terms of culture and personality,
mm,
Yeah, what did you notice about the few American men that came over that was very different, or was it kind of more of the same that what you had seen in Kenya? I'm curious as to the cultural differences and the way that you see Americans operate on the weekends. And you can edit yourself, and we can come back and take all this out if you want. But
Well, I think I've interacted a little bit more, so it's no longer culture shock for me
mm,
to interact with Americans. I sort of like have an idea. This is how they will behave. This is how they will do it. So it's almost normal for me. We watch movies a lot, and
mm,
most of it Hollywood has influenced the world, so we see that in movies as well.
yeah. I mean,
But
we all show up as movie characters, basically, right? Showing up as Rambo, and I don't even know what movie characters. But yeah, I like that expression, culture shock, less culture shock. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
but generally, my view of Americans is loud.
mm, yeah,
You're loud and outgoing and go-getters um, and what's in it for me. And so I
mm,
want to know
mm-hmm,
how am I um, what's my place in the whole of this. And so
mm,
um, yeah, so you want to stand out and be counted. And so um, yeah, I think I've met, I would also say that's generalization,
mm,
but I think it's also important for me to say that there's differentiation as well in
mm,
terms of personalities,
mm,
because not everyone, not every American behaves the same, and so there are those who are also quiet, a little bit laid back. Um, I probably noticed you are a little more laid back
mm,
than most Americans.
mm-hmm,
There was Storasi as well, who was a little bit more laid back.
yeah.
But someone like Byron, who is a go-getter, is um,
We have a code word for Byron. We just call him a Texan, and that just explains so many things. And the Texans, I think, known it. Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah. I love him dearly, and yeah, that Americanness. Yeah,
yes.
Texan
So
holds a lot of
yeah,
that.
I think that's a general view we know about Americans.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get to interact with people personally, you get to discover, yeah, this one is laid back. This one is not as loud as I've always thought. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I just said no. Yeah, yes, and I had a terribly difficult time hearing the Kenyans because I think you are so used to a lower pitch, and you're more in tune to what the other person is saying, and so and I'm not used to the accent, so to me it was kind of like, geez,
mm,
everyone is mumbling. My ears are not great to begin with, and then you pointed out the Rwandans right there, different comfort levels with English, and so I was really struggling. I was like, I'm about half the time I was like, I think I'll be okay if I don't ask them to repeat themselves. So I just got so tired of saying, sorry, I didn't hear you. What? Sorry, I didn't hear you. Yeah, I probably have hearing loss just from the normal American conversation tones. That's probably what that is.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that.
And that's why
So,
I was asking you. I hope you get to understand my and to hear my accent, because
mm, I, on the microphone, it is brilliant. The other thing I noticed is that if it's not in context, I can have a really hard time
okay.
putting together what exactly is happening. So on a one-on-one conversation, it's fine. But if someone asks me something, I'm not paying attention. I'm like, oh shoot, now they're going to have to say that 2 or 3 times before
Mm,
I
mm.
understand. Yeah, no, I like I
And
said, I
we don't mind repeating. So
okay,
You
Okay.
know, sometimes you don't get it, so just be confident. Ask again, what did you say? Or talk
What?
slowly or
One more
louder.
time? Yeah, yeah. Yell it at me, please. Feel like feel like an American conversation. Okay, so moving out of that weekend and the experience, just to a kind of a general state of Crucible in Kenya. What did you notice? How did that weekend help or shift or change? And then the next weekend we did there, just kind of what do you notice about the Crucible in Kenya this year in particular?
The team I have, and especially the leader, the current leader, who is Alan,
Hmm.
who I handed over to, is a lot more systematic and structured,
Mm.
and so and a few more of the team members are that kind. I am structured, but not as much. I am able to adjust in the environment and context where I need to be adaptable. I switch, and in places where I need to be structured, I also switch. And so, what has happened is that there's been a lot more uh, emphasis and leaning towards being structured and working out things and taking time and having things in advance to be able to plan and implement the plans, which is sometimes not the way I work out. I I just think we need to have a weekend in the next 2 months. Can we do it? Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
so it's been a little slower than I would have wanted.
Mm,
I'm a little bit more somebody who would like things to move faster,
mm,
and let's not plan too much about it. Let's
mm.
just get in and learn in the process. Fail forward.
Yeah, fail forward.
Uh,
Yeah. Mm,
and so I would say I would have loved us to be a little more ahead in terms of doing more, having more men to come in and do the work,
mm,
do more weekends. Um, but I think the Americans also, in the way Crucible is, and I think the discussion we had after the 2 weekends also clarified or rather confirmed that there's need to have experienced certified weekend leaders, and so then that slows down how much we can do
mm.
because we have
Yeah.
to now plan and agree way ahead when can we have the Americans who are certified coming in, and so that they can help us to lead a weekend.
Mm.
But otherwise, we got the momentum to be able to do small groups, and so that's what has
Yeah.
been happening. And
Okay.
so the men who have been willing have been meeting regularly to just go through the 15 weeks. We all
Hmm.
agreed let's start with the 15 weeks, even if we had done a bit of it in a different way. And so most of those who started have now completed, and so that's done and dusted. But now we challenging each other now to take on new groups in the new year, and
Mm.
so that those who went through the 15 weeks can now do it for other men who would be willing to do it. And so it's been an interesting season of just getting a little more deeper
Mm.
and doing the soul work. We had one weekend, I think a month ago, when more than a month ago, at the beginning of November, yes. And so
Mm.
and we had about 12 men who came for that, and so it was easy to be able to now do work because people have been doing their soul work in the soul groups. And so I appreciate the work that is going on, and I appreciate the leadership that has come in, because there's a lot more leaning towards excellence, and
Mm,
let's do it well. Let's do it well. Which is not the way I usually work it. For me, let's do it and learn from what we have done. So
mm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate that. I mean, a lot of those challenges, I think, are very similar in the United States. Um, Before I kind of started some of the leadership requirements that Crucible has here. Um, it's like, boy, we don't have a whole lot of leaders, and having been in it and having seen it and having gone through the work, I'm so appreciative of a really good, seasoned, strong leader to
Mm,
take me through my work. And it, as they say, it just takes time. And I think it could definitely go faster. And my experience was like, okay, yeah, I can get in here and learn some of these leadership skills, and then I'll move forward. And there was some point about a year and a half into it when my eyes were kind of open to the level of leadership and, like you said, excellence. I think that they were looking for, and I was like, oh, this is just going to take more
mm,
time than I would want, and it's definitely going to slow things down. And again, I was so grateful to have a really good leader to lead me through. Yeah, I feel that struggle, and I've heard that from many communities uh, as we go through it. It just seems to be a part of not just a part of doing it well, but maybe doing it safely. Um, to if we're going to do soul work, yeah, we want to
mm.
be competent and capable and safe with people's souls as they do that. I'm yeah, curious, as you got back, were you to talk about your sabbatical experience? Did you already kind of have that brewing or thinking for some time that was something that you wanted to move into and do, or did that come up pretty quickly for you, and then you made that happen?
It's been something I've been thinking for a while. Um, I have been on the move for the past 5 years. It's been very intense. Um, I think the last time I had a break was in 2016, when I fell ill. I had, it was sort of like a compulsory um, leave that I had to take.
Forced, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so from then I just hit the ground running again from 2017, especially remembering having to host the Crucible Weekend here. And then I traveled to India again for review. I traveled to New Zealand. I traveled um, to to the US, and so it's been pretty busy for those years, and so I needed to take a break and look back and document what has happened, because I also felt I was turning 50. I need to celebrate Jubilee, but I can't celebrate unless I have taken time to reflect back and see what God has been doing in my life. And so it was intentional that I would take a break when I am almost turning 50, and so that I can take time to reflect back and celebrate what God has done, and in a sense also now receive focus and look to the future and see what could be, what
Mm,
could God do in the next few years. And so I have done the part of reflecting back. Um, I have an idea of what I would like to see happen in the next few years. But from January, I'll take now 3 months before I resume now in April. to just now forecast and plan ahead and seek God uh, guidance on the way forward, because I want to be more fruitful than I have been.
Mm,
I have probably done a lot of trial and error in the past 50 years,
mm,
but then I have now to be more specific and aim more accurately on what I'm doing. I know what I can do currently. I know what I can't do,
mm,
and so I would like to lean more on what I can do, and so that
mm.
I don't begin to try new things. Yeah, so that was the motivation.
Uh, so the little bit that I saw was looking back. I think you went back to your childhood
Yes,
home or village, or yeah, what would you call it?
yes.
I
What I've been doing is sharing every week just the events, the significant events of every decade.
mm,
So my first 10 years in a chunk, the next 10 years during my teenagehood, the next 10 years during my 20s and my 30s and my 40s. And so I in October I took time to go and visit my relatives, my parents and guardians, those who helped in taking care of me, and so I just needed to get a lot more perspective of how my childhood was, and so but then I also look back and see what could have been done differently, and so that I can use that to equip current parents, and so that they can bring up a better generation.
yeah,
And so one of the quotes that I quote from George, one philosopher called George Santayana,
mm,
is that whoever forgets history is bound to repeat it.
yeah,
And so
mm,
there's
yeah,
necessity to look back and see what are the lessons that we can learn from the past. What are the mistakes that were made that could be done better? And so we need to have people make new mistakes, not the same mistakes
mm,
that were made by our parents. I would be stupid to make the same mistakes that my parents did,
mm,
and so I want my son to make different mistakes, because we all make mistakes as we
yeah,
go alongside. Yeah, and so
yeah,
I want him to discover better things, and so
mm,
if he can learn from what I have learned, the better, and so that he doesn't fall in the same traps that I fell in, or go the same paths that I went in. Yeah, so
yeah.
um,
I love it goes back to that. Sounds to me like fail forward. That's that's helpful for me. I do notice I'll tend to live a cautious um, life and be afraid of things in the future that are really just imaginary in my
mm,
head, and it's just that's inspirational for me. Um, and yeah, that sounds like uh, an excellent, a worthy, true and good and noble thing to spend your time doing. To look at the way the parents handled you, look at the way you're handling, and yeah, let's make some new mistakes
mm.
and move forward. So yeah, in that process and writing the book, what age are you up to now? Have you gone through everything? Or are you still?
I've just well, I've finished the book,
Wow.
but
Okay.
yes, I'm through with the book. So what I'm doing now is just editing, going through each chapter to comb out the grammar,
Hmm.
shortening of sentences that I feel are longer than necessary. Yeah, but I've finished everything.
Wow.
But in terms of sharing on Facebook, where you
Mm.
saw I had
Whereas,
shared up
yeah.
to my 20s. Yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah. So not to give away too much of the book, but to whet people's appetite. Yeah. Uh, how do you describe the book? What do you tell people? I'm already interested in getting a book that's being edited. But yeah, how do you describe that book to people?
Yeah, so the way I look at the first decade of childhood, when I look back in my own life and see what could my parents have done better and what could I have done better even on my own children, because I missed. I'm learning these
Mm,
things later, and so
mm,
I didn't bring up my children in the best way that I would have wanted if I knew it, if
mm.
I knew what I know now.
Yeah.
And so the first decade is basically the formation stage. And what has contributed, even, and I think Crucible has contributed a lot in terms of shaping my thinking, in terms of how do you help a child grow up confident in their own identity
Mm,
and self esteem? How do you build them to be able to conquer the world? And so I find that the first 10 years are very critical.
mm.
And in fact, that's when we do carpets. That's what comes out most of the time. What
Yeah.
was said, what was done during those formative years.
Yeah.
And so there are four key areas which I draw from scripture. My sharing is a lot leaning towards scripture. I look at the
Mm,
life of Jesus in Luke chapter 2, verse 42, and then verse 52, that talks about four key areas that need to be looked at. Jesus grew in stature, he
mm,
grew in wisdom, he grew in favor with God and in favor with man.
mm,
And so when I look at those four key areas that have been brought out, then a child needs to be able to grow in stature. How do you help a child grow in stature physically, in terms of good health? And all that is natural. And so a lot of that happens. In terms of wisdom, we teach them to know things and grow in terms of understanding themselves, understanding the world around them. We focus on those two, but the place for favor with God and favor with men,
mm,
they are usually deficient most of the time.
mm.
So, how do you train a child to grow in favor with God?
Yeah.
And how do you train a child to grow in favor with men? And so it takes me to what Jesus said in the Great Commandment, that you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. And so growing in favor with God has to do with the heart, because it is with the heart that
Mm,
we believe,
mm,
and it is with the mouth that we confess that we receive salvation. And so then that means that the heart needs to be trained to love.
mm,
And so when you train yourself to love the Lord, you are growing in favor with Him. And so, because God already pours out His love on us, but when we now get to train to love Him, the more we are able now to transfer it to other people around us.
mhm,
Yeah, and so in the first decade, the biggest training that needs to happen to children is to be able to not just look at the physical development, not just look at the mental development, but look at the spiritual development, and
mm,
see how can the heart of this kid begin to be inclined towards God, and how can they begin to socially um, interact with others in a way that adds value to them, because every child grows with a selfish
mm.
attitude. It's about
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
so how do you begin to train the child to to have favor with people. I mean, how do you train the child to like people and to add value to people without just thinking about themselves? And it's a training. It's a training
Wow.
that happens. So that's the first 10 years. And the greatest ingredients that parents need to give, and especially for a father, I have a huge emphasis on fatherhood. How does a father help a child to grow confidently in their identity? There are four key things. One is affirmation. Affirm
Mm.
them as much as you can. Secondly, is acceptance, unconditional acceptance. And
Yeah.
so basically, hugging them and allowing them to come to you even when they have messed up, when they have not done the right things. That's unconditional acceptance. There is also unconditional affection,
Mm.
where you are loving them, you are speaking. Affection actually comes a lot by speaking words of love, that they know who they are. So, and then lastly is access. And so I have those four things that
Mm.
need to be given to children. So access basically means that they can come to you, they can run to you. They,
Wow.
whether they are good or bad, they can still run to you. And so, and that you can provide also. Access is resourcing, that you're able to resource that child.
Mm.
So those things still flow even into the teenagehood. Um, and so teenagers still need to be given affirmation, to be given affection, to be given acceptance, and to be given access. But now during teenagehood, because the minds of the children are now developed and they're trying to dissociate themselves from parents. And so
Mm.
they're trying to gain their own self. During the first 10 years, they are interconnected with parents so much. But then during teenagehood, they discover there are more cooler people out there than my dad or my mom. They discover there are girls that are
Mm.
beautiful, and and the girls discover they are boys, and so they want to move away from home so that they can interact there. And so how do you then train a teenager to be able to survive the storms of life during that time when there's puberty going on, there's emotions and all that? So it's
Yeah.
still in training in these four key areas. um, and so, but mainly training the heart to believe in themselves, training the soul to be having a to will and to make decisions based not on emotions, and not to ignore emotions, but to be able to use emotions as indicators of what is happening inside their hearts. Train them on in their mind. How do you get information that will be useful to you, and so that you grow in a
Mm.
way that helps you become a better person. And then lastly, how do you grow your social skills, how to relate with people, in terms of I need to honor people. I need to respect people. I need to know that people are different and appreciate their uniqueness. And so all those aspects, they're important in the training of teenagers. Yeah. And then in the 20s, you're now on your own. You're an adult. You're no
Mm.
longer dependent, and so you're becoming your own person. Um, that's a place now to begin to set structures and systems for yourself in this. Now there's a fourth aspect that comes on beyond just the heart, the spiritual development, soul development, mental development, and social development, the aspect of skills, which now drive you into the career.
Mm.
And so you now are specializing in a skill that gives you the opportunity to add value to others. And so those five key areas, it's now for you in your 20s to set structures and systems that help you to do two main things. And there are two main ways: apprenticeship, growing under somebody, and so
Mm-hmm.
looking for mentors who can help you grow, looking for spiritual fathers who can help you in terms of spiritual development. And so apprenticeship is very key during your 20s. But then Secondly, is to understand that we serve in a kingdom, and the kingdom has warriors, and so that's a period of growing your warrior spirit. And
Mm,
so, how can you develop resistance towards battles, or how do you train yourself to win battles? Because you're now on your own. There is no parent to defend you. You
mm,
have to learn to win on your
mm,
own. um,
mm,
but of course, now you can't be on your own. You need to develop structures and systems around you, and so that you have accountability from people, you have support that you can lean into, and all that. So that's in your 20s. And then in your 30s, the biggest thing is on love and mission. So you fully now known, you have known what your mission is,
mm,
and now you get now engaged into executing it. And for you to execute it effectively, you need mates. You need a life partner, because if you get a partner who is not aligned with your mission, it jeopardizes your mission. And so
mm,
you have to be really careful and keen to get, and pray God to give you the right partner, life partner, as a wife, or as a husband.
mm,
And so it is now time to build beyond yourself. In your 20s, you are on your own.
mhm,
You are basically looking on your own. But now you get a partner, you have to think us. You have to move from I to us, we.
mm,
Begin to talk that language. So it's another area of training of love again, because how do you love somebody else like yourself? How do you treat your wife with the same way that you treat yourself? How do you treat your husband in the like manner?
mm,
And beyond that, there's also building relationships, ministry partners, work partners, people that you're working with. If you're setting up a company, you need partners, you need people that you will work around. So it's a time for relationships and execution of mission. And then in your 40s, which I am just coming to an end, I have
mm,
discovered it's a time to administer the gifts that you have been building over the years. And so you're now looking beyond yourself. You're looking at legacy. And so you're asking
mm,
yourself, how can what I've built go beyond myself? And so you begin now to look at mentorship, you begin to look at apprenticeship, pouring into others, but also documenting what you have, setting SOPs for your life, uh, the way you have done life, and so that somebody else
mm.
can learn from that. And so that's what I've been doing
Wow,
most of
yeah.
these 10 years. Yes.
Holy cow, that's an
So
amazing.
that's my lifetime now.
That's almost the audiobook version. I feel like I'm sure there's lots more good stuff in that, but that was amazing. Wow, thank you for sharing. I mean, I felt myself as being like, oh my gosh, I want to know uh, where Ananda was. Right? What was it like for you? What parts did you get really well? What parts did you not receive? How did that shape you? How did you overcome that? Like for every stage, right? That's like another four
Mm,
hours of
mm,
talking.
mm.
And yeah, I want to leave an open invitation. I would love to come back and
Sure.
keep talking about that, and your experience, and break that down, because that, yeah, I can see myself in those stages, right? I'm a 40 something. Um, so, and yeah, I'm just starting to see that bigger than my own life. What can
Mhm,
I leave behind that, um, yeah, blesses people, that could be a legacy. So, and throughout all of those areas, I was resonating with that. So, uh, thank you for all of that, and thank you for sharing, and for writing the book. I'm already excited to see what the details and the depths, and how do you do that. I think that's great
mm,
insight, um, to help, yeah, help a young man, help a young woman, along. Yeah, yeah. Just so many things I'd like to go, and so many places I'd like to go. And you've been so
Mm,
generous with your time. Um,
thank you.
I
Thank you
I
as well
want,
for the opportunity. It's a
yeah,
privilege, it's an honor. I do not take it for granted.
mm, yeah. Thank you for being you, for doing God's work, for unpacking your own life, for leaving a legacy to make other lives better. Yeah, here to making new mistakes, failing forward. Um, for the people who are listening who want to maybe follow you on social media and get more information about the book and a launching and whatever else might happen, where can people find you on the internet?
My Facebook page, all my handles are actually Zephania, and so if you can check from Facebook, Zephania. I think it seems like Facebook is a more interactive
Mm,
social media that people are using.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so that's where you'll find me mostly. But I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram and also on LinkedIn. And the same handle you'll find either Zephania Ananda or Zeph Ananda.
yeah. And so for Americans listening, that's
Yes,
Zephanda, Zeph
yes,
Ananda.
yes,
Or what was the other one? Zephaniah Ananda.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, you can find it on there. We'll put links to that and get people connected up to the work that you're doing. Um, yeah, and the blessing that you're bringing. There's just so many more questions coming out about how what your weekend experience was and what that cracked in you and what part of the just so many things. And I think we'll have to leave it here. And anything else you want to leave people with? Thank you so much for this conversation.
My parting shot would be as I reflect back even in my life, I think it's not just lessons for the past, it's lessons for the future as well. And the big takeout for me
Mm,
is that we have to constantly engage in training the heart to believe, because we will encounter situations in life that will make us doubt of who God is and who we are. And so train the heart to believe, train the soul to will, because the soul is the center of our emotions, and it's a center of our will, decisions that we
mm,
make. And so if the soul is trained to make decisions, then it will be able to withstand the storms of life. The third thing is to train the mind to perceive,
mm,
and the mind does not just need to receive information, but what is deeper inside. And so the mind needs to perceive, not just on the surface level, but on the spiritual level. So train the mind to perceive, and then lastly, train the body to to live sacrificially,
mm,
because the body always wants to have its way, it wants pleasure, but
mm,
then life in abundance that Christ offers requires that we offer ourselves as living sacrifices every day. And so, train your body to sacrifice. Exercising is not something that people just pleasurely do,
mm.
it's a sacrifice. Eating well is not something that people just do, you have to sacrifice.
Well,
And so, denying yourself pleasures, immorality, and all that, it's a sacrifice. And so, you have to train your body to be sacrificial. So those
mm,
are the four things that I would leave behind, and say thank you so much, Jay, for having me. It's a
mm.
pleasure and my privilege for this opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, a lot for me to think of, chew on, and feel a better person for having spent this time with you. listen to your story challenged and blessed. Thank you so much, Zephania Ananda.
Thank you.
Till next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
For more information about our weekends, please go to thecrucibleproject.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Rate and review wherever you are listening and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform. Also, don't forget to check out myjourney2.com for your free 2-week trial. That's myjourneyto.com. Thank you for listening.